Hey everyone, it's Tatiana from EdTrust, and today I'm with.
Kristen Hengtgen, Policy Lead for College and Career Readiness.
So this week is Public Schools Week, and with the recent attacks on public schools with the threat of shutting down the Department of Education, how do public schools help and support our families and communities?
So one thing that I think is interesting about public schools is most students go to public schools, right? About 90% of students attend public schools in our country. So it's really one of the only things that we all share. They play an important role in our society. So public schools don't get to pick and choose. They take everyone, right? No matter what your abilities are, no matter what you're like, your background, the languages you speak, your religion. That's really important because they bring folks together from all sorts of different backgrounds, and we become part of one community. Public schools really are an opportunity to bring us all together and prepare us to have empathy for people who are different than us, and go out into the world and engaging as a member of society with people who are different than you.
So what are some common misconceptions about public schools?
There's a lot of conversation about public schools right now, and I even think about moments like the NAEP scores that really show a lot of our students are struggling, and that's true. We have not enough students who are reading well in third grade, or not enough students with strong math skills, and that's really important. And most people think that their public schools are doing a good job. We have lots of different surveys that show, in general, people are pretty happy with their public school. Even if people hold the perception of, public schools may not be as strong as they'd like, they generally think theirs are good. One interesting thing that we have in our country is we have some of the best schools in the entire world in our country, and we have some of the, lowest performing schools in the world. And when you add those all up together, you see where we're at compared internationally to other schools, and we're not necessarily at the top, we're not at the bottom, we're maybe higher than somewhere in the middle, and I think that shows we have a really big variety. So the good news is that we have a lot of schools doing amazing things. Schools in all sorts of different places who are innovating and connecting students to career opportunities, for example. So we're really seeing a lot of schools right now think differently about connecting students to career exploration, even working with their local communities to prepare students for the jobs that may be in their communities. And that means students are also connecting with employers, community colleges, chambers of commerce, colleges, universities, other citizens. And I think that's really exciting. That's one thing that our schools, I think, are really trying to respond to what students and families say they want right now, which are first to help schools prepare people for their careers. Another thing about public schools is that they're transparent, right? They really have to be accountable. There are really strong guardrails for public schools. So even if your local public school may not be perfect, you can check and see how they're doing. You can check a lot of information about how that school is doing. And usually states and districts have plans for how to improve those public schools. That's not the case with private schools, right? They may not have any transparency. We may even have private schools that are issuing diplomas, right? Students are graduating, and we don't know what's going on with that diploma, right? So I think a really important thing about public schools is there's clear guardrails, there's clear transparency. These schools and the people teaching in them are accountable to something, and that's not the case for private schools.
So there's a growing movement for voucher programs in the United States. So if states do decide to pass these voucher programs, how will that affect public schools?
It's concerning. It's concerning. It takes away money and resources and care and investment in the public schools, which again serve everyone. They don't get to choose that they're not going to serve students with disabilities or students with different behavioral issues, or they have to take everyone. And so, it makes me think of a ship in the water, and maybe the ship is struggling a little bit, but we have public funds that are, supporting this ship, and there's lifeboats being thrown to the ship, right? There's maybe additional Title I funds in low-income schools to help support that ship and those students. When more folks are using vouchers, they're taking those lifeboats away, right? So the ship may be sinking as those lifeboats are moving elsewhere. And we don't want the ship to sink, right? And the ship is only serving then almost a second-class tier of students, right? The students who may not be able to leave and go somewhere else, somewhere without accountability, somewhere without transparency, and someone that can choose, I don't want to accept your student. We're not accountable to anyone for what we do in our school. So I think there's an important opportunity we need to get the public invested again in public schools. And that includes our monetary investment, but also our care, our support. And I know not every parent can do this, but if we're unhappy with our public schools, how can we get involved in the public schools, right? Because they're public spaces, parents can go to the meetings, right? You can join meetings at your schools. You can get involved in the school board, right? You're involved in making those decisions if you want to be, and I think that's really important when we consider the role of the public school.